Now, the other way that we can have, or we need to have in a course to meet these standards, is the social presence. You want to create social presence, right? So here, again, discussion or discussion boards. By discussion board, I mean something you post on Canvas. And by discussion in the class, maybe if it is in person, again, that is another type, right? So it's not specifically about writing, but it's just creating that discussion. So it could be used as part of the instructor presence, but it can also be a very useful tool for creating social presence in the class. And by that, you can see what level of knowledge you want to measure for your students. And again, it goes back to the assessment, right? So, for example, if you are looking at measuring those outcomes that start with apply, plan, utilize, implement, all those different Bloom's taxonomy that we talked about when we are writing the module level outcomes or when we are writing the course level outcomes, then there would be some application questions, right? And then by having this discussion, you would be able to measure this specific outcome, and then that would be a very purposeful discussion. So instead of just saying, okay, let's talk about this, we give them a specific question. The type of question could be analysis questions, synthetic questions, or evaluative questions. And if the answer is going to include any of the verbs or this in this part, then you know that you are measuring what. And that would be not only creating some social presence in the course, but also a very purposeful type of assessment. Other way of creating social presence is team or group projects. They really break the ice. If you put the teams together and then students form their own club in the class, and then they have a variety of skills, so they start like making that engagement, and then the social presence increases. Peer reviews is another one. I don't do that for some courses. It doesn't make sense. But for example, for an undergrad course in facility planning that the students work in a team together, and then there are different teams in the same class and they want to do a project. Mid-semester, I have them to do a project presentation just in the middle of the semester before the project is completed. And I ask all the other teams to review the presenting team. For example, team 1 gets to review it by team 2, 3, and 4. And I give them some specific rubrics, so they check. And then if some team, for example, do not get a good score in one criteria, let's say the intellectual merit of their project, then they should justify or they should change something in their project, right? So that sort of peer reviews tells the students that their opinion matters, and they can also engage in some part of the learning or that kind of assessment. A very useful one is introductory discussion on teaching philosophy. So you explain for this class that what is your purpose. For example, if in your teaching philosophy you are following continuous improvement, you share that with your students that, okay, after every assignment or after every 2-3 weeks, I'm going to share with you how the whole class is doing. And then if we are doing, for example, worse in one part and good in the other part, how we are going to improve that part. So you're just telling your students that what is your teaching philosophy, or if you are giving them a group project and then group learning is part of your teaching philosophy, it's a good idea to explain it to them. What I do is that I usually post a link to my faculty website, and then the first session of the class, and I put that link in the homepage of the course. And in the first session of the class, when I'm going through the introduction slides and I introduce myself, I tell what is my background, what is my teaching philosophy, and then I tie them to why I am teaching this course instead of Professor A or Professor B. And I say, okay, this part of my research, this part of my education, this part of my teaching philosophy, they make me a proper instructor for this course. So this is just something that we can do again to be there in the course. And of course, discussion boards to Q&A, it is helpful depending on how big the course is or how much time you have. So if the student enrollment is like very high in that course, and then you don't get to do a lot of Q&A during the office hours or in the class, then having that discussion board is helpful. So you would just post a discussion on Canvas and ask a student to post their question there. And I always ask other students that if you know the answer, go ahead and post it. And then I also post some answer, or if it helps, some other resources. So these are all different strategies, and there are much more that we can just come up with. The last one that is very important is cognitive presence. And by that, you want to make sure that learning happens in the class cognitively. And you want to create some sort of assessment that are able to create that cognitive presence. Now, this cognitive presence is from you as a professor and from students as the learners. Here are some examples. Of course, there are a lot more, but these are the ones that I use, and I found them very useful. So that's why I'm sharing them here. So the first one is a reflection on selected course topic. Now, sometimes it happens very informally. Like I go to class on Tuesday, and then I ask a student about the last week topic. So how did it go? What was the most important thing that you learned? Is there any part of that we need to go back and review? So that would be an informal way to do that. Sometimes I use Top Hat or other like Mentimeter and other kind of tools and post 3-4 questions about last week's topic just to say, okay, I know the answer to this question. It's very comfortable for me. And option B is, I'm so-so, I still am working on the topic. And then option C is, I have a problem with this topic or it's really challenging for me. And then I look at the personage and see, okay, what kind of reflection I can receive that. Sometimes I post for some topics, not for everything. I post a reflection discussion on Canvas and I include 2 questions like what is the most important or what is the takeout from this topic for you, and which part do you think you need to work on more, or what is the area of improvement that you need in this. And then sometimes the students come up with answer that, well, I didn't get this part very well, or can you make an example? For example, what happened this semester was that I posted some management tools that the students can use for developing their project for facility planning. And in this project, what happens is that they go to a manufacturing facility, they draw the current outline or the layout of that facility. They try to come up with the issues, talk to the project manager or facility manager and see what are the issues that they need to address. And then throughout the semester, they use different course topics to improve. And finally, they are going to present an improved layout. So that is how this project works. Now, I posted some tools for students, and one of the tools was a priority matrix. So they needed to do some calculation about if there are 15 different issues in any manufacturing plant, then what are the 3 most important that they need to address? And by doing this reflection discussion, I found that all the teams have problem understanding how to do the calculation for this specific matrix. So then one session, instead of having a lecture, I just go ahead and talk about, okay, how we can complete a prioritization matrix, and now this is how you can do for your project. So just an example. The other thing is problem-based learning. So problem-based learning is very common. We do that a lot. But if we can follow a pattern for that, like a step-by-step analysis, then it would create a lot of cognitive presence for the students. So the first thing is that you break the problem into specific groups. For example, what is the purpose? Create a setting for that. Tell a story. Who or what characters are involved in this? And then what are the resources that the students need to do this? So by breaking problem into this, like when you're describing the problem instead of just asking the question, it gives the students the opportunity to think about what they want to do next. And then instead of asking them to do or give you the final solution next week, you ask them to complete the problem analysis worksheet. Now, there are different types of problem analysis worksheets, totally up to you how you want to design that, but that is one thing that you can do. And then you always want to provide reliable resources to fill the knowledge gap. So if it is some conference paper you want to share, if it is some videos that you want to share, so whatever that helps the student understand this problem more. And then if they have a specific question, if they don't know what method, and you don't want to like present that method as a kind of lecture, then you can help them with some other resources and teach them how to document the results. So if you do them like a scaffolding assignment, a step by step, then at the end of the semester, not only they have done it, or maybe not just a semester, maybe this is a 2-week assignment or 3-week assignment. So that at the end of that period, we are sure that a lot of learning has happened here. And they are, of course, measurable, right? Because we just created that assessment based on these categories. And the other one is scaffolding. Scaffolding has different types, and we can talk about that. And finally, implementing the Paul Elder model of critical thinking, which is a very useful way of creating that cognitive presence, making sure that you are using the correct tools and the correct assessment.